Yes, you've read the title. AMD GPUs are currently really bad for Warzone, and there is a way to address this one, which is what we're going to talk about in this video. However, I do have to say that it's probably not enough to save AMD in Warzone. Okay, let's go.
If you are following our channel, or in most cases you may have heard from other people that AMD cards are just amazing for Call of Duty or Warzone. And this was true, especially during the Warzone 2 era. You can see how different it was back then when we covered it. Now though, it's probably not the case. I was recording a gameplay for our upcoming RX 6600 video, and this is our Warzone gameplay. Have you noticed anything? The average FPS is pretty good, but have you noticed something else? Well, if you look closely at it, you would probably notice the terrible 1% and 0.1% lows. And yes, that's the short version for it. The main issue here is the intermittent frame time spikes like this one here and this one again. And for those who are new to the channel, this frame time graph is a visual representation of smoothness in game. The more erratic it is, the more stuttery your experience will be while playing. Ideally, you would want to have a smoother experience, so you will have better precision if you are competitively gaming. On our real gameplay benchmarks, I tend to focus more on frame times rather than on 1% lows metrics, because frame times tell you a real-time indicator of when the stuttering happens, whether this could be during those clutch moments or it's just a random stutter. Whereas those metrics like the lows only give you an average of the lowest points, which yeah, it could work. So anyway, what could have caused this? Well, in Warzone, our settings are already set to competitive and optimized for performance and visibility. Now, considering we are using a budget card RX 6600, it is expected that we would be bottlenecked by the GPU. However, we shouldn't still be experiencing something like this. We even turned on anti-lag to see if it made any difference, and unfortunately in this instance it didn't have any effect at all. After multiple settings tweak, one setting seems to have a scalable effect on stability, and this is the VRAM scale target. This was defaulted to 90 when we upgraded to Warzone 3, and we're going to explore if tweaking this will have a significant effect on our gameplay. So this is the default 90 setting. You can see how terrible it is when we are doing the running benchmark. We even did some slides here, which sort of like aggravated it. After this, we started decreasing the value, and this is how it feels like when we've set the VRAM scale target to 80. Once again, we decrease it some more to see if there is any impact on performance and stability, and here we are again at 70 VRAM scale target, and once again down to 60 VRAM target, and finally we have 50 VRAM target, which is the lowest setting, and you can see the significant difference here compared to the stock 90 VRAM target. Now, you'd probably be thinking, this issue must only be limited to a card which has a smaller VRAM of 8GB like the RX 6600, and maybe last generation cards like the 6000 series. So we've also put in our RX 7800 XT to the test, and this card comes with double the VRAM at 16GB and belongs to AMD's latest generation. But before we proceed guys, if you found this helpful so far, can you hit that like button? This really helps us a lot. Okay, going back, so here's the RX 7800 XT on our VRAM investigation. Let's start from the bottom, and this is the RX 7800 XT at 50 VRAM scale target. Now we've set this test at 1080p to keep it consistent with the previous test and see if GPU bottleneck plays a factor here. Let's compare this to the RX 6600 and try to focus more on the frame time stability instead of the FPS, because obviously the RX 7800 XT would be much faster compared to the RX 6600. So far so good. Let's go up to a 60 VRAM scale target, and once again let's compare this with the RX 6600 at 60 VRAM scale target. And once again, let's go up a notch. So here's a 70 VRAM scale target. and comparing again to the RX 6600 at the same VRAM scale target. Okay, let's set it up to 80 VRAM scale target this time around. And here you can see the issue is becoming more obvious. Take a look at the frame time charts, boys, and look at that VRAM usage and allocation. We are definitely seeing the issue here, which is, it's quite clear. Let's go up one more step to the final 90 VRAM scale target, and look at that. It's bad. You can clearly see that from the frame times, especially when compared to the 50 VRAM scale target. So that rules out having a lot of VRAM because it doesn't matter. This is an AMD wide issue. Now, let's add one more thing. Let's bump the resolution to 1440p and see how this affects the RX 7800 XT with that added graphics load at 90 VRAM scale target. And wow, you can see that one, right? Look at how bad that one is. It's terrible. So if you're an AMD user and you're wondering why your performance has been bad, this is the reason why. For now, I suggest that you use the 50 VRAM scale target, and while you're at it, why don't you submit a bug report to AMD so they can fix this issue. The more bug reports we have, the faster this one gets escalated. But before we move on, guys, what about Nvidia? Like, are they affected by the same VRAM scaling issue? Okay, let's put in our RTX 4060, which is an 8GB card. And same thing, we're going to start from the bottom, going all the way up to 90 VRAM scale target and see if they have the same issue. So here's 50 VRAM scale target with our RTX 4060, and wow, look at how smooth it is. Let's see how it compares to our RX 6600 with the same VRAM scale target. Ignore the FPS figures once again, but focus more on stability. Alright, let's slowly dial this one up. So here's the RTX 4060 with 60 VRAM scale target. And once again, here's the RX 6600 non-XT with the 60 VRAM scale target. Once again, we're going to up it up to 70 VRAM scale target for our RTX 4060. And here's the RX 6600 with the same VRAM scale setting. Bumping it up once again to 80 VRAM scale target. And here's the 80 VRAM scale target of the RX 6600 non-XT. And finally, here's the 90 VRAM scale target with the RTX 4060. It looks like the RTX 4060's performance is now obviously affected with the 90 VRAM scale target. However, this isn't as bad as AMD. When compared side by side with AMD's memory scaling, it seems to be much worse here in Warzone. I certainly hope AMD engineers and driver developers can see this video so we can get this issue fixed. I will continue to monitor this, so if you want to be up to date with these things based on real hardware testings, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, boys.